The following podcast contains movie spoilers and mature content, including graphic descriptions of violence. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to Opening Kill, the podcast that dives deep into the chilling world of horror films. Every Thursday, we explore a different movie, from cult classics to modern masterpieces, uncovering behind-the-scenes secrets, analyzing themes, and sharing fun facts about your favorite horror films. Join us as we chat with filmmakers and fellow horror film fans to celebrate the fear in cinema. And now, the hosts of Opening Kill, Michael Doran and Brian O'Connor.
Welcome, Michael Doran.
Welcome, Brian O'Connor.
It is episode 14 of Opening Kill, the podcast that deep dives into the world of horror films.
It sure is.
It sure is.
And we've got a good one. I was very excited to see The Monkey.
So was I.
And it was probably my most anticipated. It was one of my scare previews back in the early days of the show.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to say it lived up to my expectations.
So the challenge of us doing a new release like this is the turnaround time, because we literally go watch it and then we record just a couple of days later.
Right.
And, you know, when you're watching it in a dark theater, there is no pushing pause and going back and rewatching scenes. So the kill count, you're taking notes and you're trying to keep up. And then, you can check with other sources later if the other sources are up yet. But
right.
This was kind of a scramble to put this together.
And I had a notepad, like I was taking notes like a pilgrim.
Yes.
And that was a mistake because I couldn't see shit. I learned very quickly. I was like, oh, God. So my notes were just jumbled. Some of them were over top of each other because I couldn't see. I was just trying my best. But
I had my phone in night mode, or dark mode. And
definitely the way to do it.
But I couldn't get my little pin thing to come out. So I'm now having to type. And I missed a few things because I had my head down on my phone. And then, something would happen. I'd look up But no, and we dragged Opening Kill researcher Danielle with us too.
Right.
And, so the three of us just sat there and thoroughly enjoyed this movie.
Yeah, I don't think I've laughed that hard in just like a movie period in a long time. I was like honestly thinking about it today. I think the last time I laughed that hard was like Jackass Forever, and that's been, I don't know, 3 years.
Been a minute,
yeah. And I think that was legitimately the one that made me laugh as hard as this one.
That is fun. And we were all laughing.
I mean, the whole theater, too. It was a great theater experience.
It really was. They were all well behaved. It was so funny because when I booked our seats, there was nobody sitting. We were the only ones in that theater. So I sent you a text and I said, somebody just booked a seat right next to us. And I sent you, that text. And
I almost lost my goddamn mind.
I know you did. It was so funny. And
because I went and looked, and legitimately every other seat was open, just the one next to us that was booked. So I was just like, are you shitting me right now?
That's kind of what you said. Yeah, it was pretty funny. You were like, what psychopath would in an empty theater book a seat right next to it? And then I said, well, it's a good thing it's researcher Danielle that I'm coming with us.
And I was like,
okay. Okay.
I guess that's acceptable.
Dumbass.
I'm quick to anger, Brian.
You
I'm quick to anger.
That was pretty funny. Another movie that I saw just last night, and the atmosphere that I watched this movie in was amazing, because I went over to the Oregon coast this weekend. I have family that they have a ranch over there, so I go over there and I stay. When I go there, I stay in their fifth wheel. It's like having my own guest house. It's my own space. It's really cool. Southern Oregon coast is known for big storms, and that's what happened. And huge winds and rain, and the actual trailer was like rocking, and I decided to watch a scary movie.
Hell yeah.
It was fantastic. It was a 2015 movie called Howl. It's a British film. It never got a theatrical release.
Okay.
Although it did, appear in major film festivals, and it did make money in non-traditional ways, but yeah, it's called Howl, and as you might imagine, it's a werewolf movie.
Right.
And it's about this passenger train that's leaving at midnight from London to go wherever they're going. And in the process, they hit a deer. So the train comes screeching to a halt, and the engineer goes out to see, what the damage is. And He's attacked by this creature, which you don't see right away.
Okay.
And then everybody on the train, there are there's some real dicks on this train. These passengers, you just want to punch them in the face.
There's something about like people traveling that turns them into the worst
Oh my
version of themselves.
God.
So that makes sense.
There were a couple on here. They were not nice people. And thankfully, pretty much they all died before this was over.
Thank God.
But it was very well done. I thought the creature effect, there was CGI involved, but there was a lot of practical stuff.
Okay.
And it wasn't like a werewolf that you think of, like the dog-looking werewolf where it's on all fours. These were more man-looking on 2 feet, walking around, and it was pretty creepy.
So is it kind of similar to like the Wee Winnell Wolfman, where it was not like a full-on wolf, but like kind of just a couple features here and there?
Well, there were more than a couple features, but yeah, the same kind of concept.
Okay.
It wasn't like your regular werewolf-looking animal.
Gotcha.
It was more man.
Okay.
And in fact, at one point, they kill one that gets on the train, and they notice it's wearing a wedding ring. So you can see that it was, a person.
Right.
And so, but I thought it was creepy. It was very well done. The effects were great. The performances were great. And I would definitely check that out. 2015's Howl.
All right. Yeah, I saw a couple movies. I saw one that was actually, both of these movies were one of my screen previews at some point. The first one let's talk about is Companion. I know it's one that you've been wanting to see. Really, really good. Some incredible performances here. A fun story that I'm not going to say anything about the story because the less you know, the better. It's one of those. So if you want to see some killer performances, a movie with some good laughs as well, kind of similar to The Monkey. There's a lot of absolute ridiculousness going on.
Right.
That's just a shit ton of fun. Great characters and some great direction as well. Definitely recommend it.
Very
and then
cool.
I saw one that wasn't as good. It's The Gorge. This one's got Mason Teller, Miles Teller, correction, and then Anya Taylor-Joy. She's pretty. They're both good in it. It's about 2 snipers that are on opposite sides of this giant gorge. Stuff in the gorge that they got to like guard, and they kind of develop a romance where they're using binoculars and kind of holding up signs, communicating to each other. And that was the only part of the movie that I enjoyed. Randomly was their romantic kind of like engagement.
But that doesn't seem like the part that you should enjoy the most.
It shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. But that's the only part that worked for me. And then the rest of it, I was just like, oh my God. It was just like, it wasn't ridiculous enough to where you don't have to suspend your belief because you're just like in the world. You're like, I get this is how it works. But it was just too ridiculous for what it was trying to be. I don't know. It just didn't work at all.
Okay.
But their performance with each other was really good. I almost am like, just give them their own romance movie because that would work.
Yeah.
They've got incredible chemistry.
Sure.
So, I mean, check it out, I guess.
Okay.
If you're bored one night and you see it on one of your streaming apps that you have, it's worth a watch there, but not much else.
Sounds good. Now,
Yeah.
Companion, because this is my birthday week.
Right.
And so I've had events every night this week, and that Companion is on my list to go. It's one of the things we're going to be doing, I think either tomorrow night or this weekend at some point. So I do want to see Companion.
Good. So you'll be able to talk about it next week.
Yeah, I've heard from not only you, but
Yeah.
from other people. Danielle went and saw it, said it was excellent.
Mhm.
So I'm excited to see Companion.
Yeah. And like, I know like the main girl is one of the 2 girls from Heretic. So, I mean, killer performance there, great performance here. And also Jack Quaid's in it. And I don't know what it is about him. In 90% of the roles he is in, he just gives me the ick. Like he's just always such a piece of shit.
Agreed.
Yeah. I mean, he's a good guy in The Boys, but like that's about it. I feel like everything else I've seen him in, I'm like, you suck.
Yeah.
You're gross.
Oh, some sad news I wanted to share. This just came out. Bloody Disgusting is reporting that actor Reggie Bannister is now entering home hospice care after a prolonged battle with dementia and Parkinson's disease. You know Reggie Bannister. He was Reggie the Ice Cream Man in all 5 of the Phantasm movies, the original and 4 sequels. And he's been managing his disease pretty well up until lately. Apparently, he collapsed the other day. That, according to a Facebook update by his longtime friend, Russell Greywolf Mauk. Bannister also appeared in films like Bubba Hotep. That was the Bruce Campbell movie where he was Elvis.
All right.
Love that movie. He was in Wishmaster, Silent Night, Deadly Night, 4 Initiation, The Quiet Ones, Last Rites, and Rage, among many, many other movies. He was also he also is, he's not dead. He's just entering hospice care, unfortunately, but he's a Vietnam War veteran, and he used his GI Bill money to basically put him through acting school, which I thought was very cool.
Cool.
Don Coscarelli, who wrote and directed the first Phantasm, created the part of Reggie the Ice Cream Man specifically for him because they were really good friends.
Okay.
So anyway, that's kind of a bummer. He's 79 years old, and I remember Phantasm being one of the very first horror films I, really kind of got into as I was discovering the genre.
Right.
Yeah.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah, it is.
But yeah, my news is one that we've both talked about. I think it was one of your scare previews. It was one of my news stories back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
It is Clown in a Cornfield finally got a trailer.
Yes.
And it's a red band trailer, so there's some violence in it. It's based off the book from Adam Caesar, which is a part of a trilogy, so I imagine if this one does well, we can expect a couple sequels from it. I'm really excited about it. From what I've seen, it follows the book pretty well.
I need to read the book.
You should. It's a quick little read too. It's a YA horror movie, but a horror novel, but it's still gory enough to where it doesn't really, it doesn't feel YA. It's a really fun story. I think the movie is going to be a blast. It looks like it's got that like slick humor matched with insane violence. So I'm pumped. The trailer looks great. They finally showed us what the clown looks like, and I think it looks good.
I am so excited for this film. That one and Death of a Unicorn are the two that I'm looking forward to the most, I think, at this point.
It's kind of weird. A lot of the movies I've been looking forward to this year have a lot of humor in it.
Mm-hmm.
And it looked like Death of a Unicorn definitely has so much humor in it. This one, The Monkey, I think it's going to be a good run for comedic horror movies this year.
I think so, too. If The Monkey is any indicator,
yeah.
Like you said, we normally don't laugh in movie theaters, period, and especially with horror films, but yeah, this was an exception.
Yeah, when it's done well, it's a perfect combination.
I'm gonna start the opening kill counter. I'm gonna fire it up a little early to get it warmed up here because we have a ton of kills in this. It is The Monkey, Just the Facts, directed by the great Osgood Perkins.
Yes.
Also has a part in this film as well, which I didn't know.
Right.
And I thought that was pretty amazing. This is based on the short story by Stephen King. It was first published in Gallery magazine in 1980, and then Stephen King took it and he really revised it.
Okay.
Pretty big time, and then re-released it in this little book that I am holding in my hand. It's called Skeleton Crew. It is a collection of his short stories, and I read this as a kid, and there's probably about 22 stories in this book.
Okay.
And they chose to put the monkey on the cover of it, which I think is fantastic. But
because I haven't read the short story.
Okay.
I'm assuming you have.
It's been so long, I don't remember much about the story.
I
know it's
ask,
different.
I'm like, okay, it is pretty different.
So the short story, I did check this out. The short story is about 34 pages long.
Oh, okay.
So you can assume that based on what we saw in the movie the other night, they definitely
had
liberties.
to expand.
And I'm sure Stephen King had some input. He wasn't a producer. Or maybe he was a producer on this, but I'd have to look that up. But he wrote a 34-page short story. They turned this into a feature film, which is just amazing. Even he is singing its praises.
Yeah, he was one and he will let you know if he thinks it sucks. So.
Yeah, absolutely he will. So released technically Friday the 21st, although a lot of theaters, started showing it the night before.
Yeah, we did a Thursday showing.
We did. Stars Theo James, Tatiana Maslany, Christian Convery, Adam Scott, Colin O'Brien, and Elijah Wood, who I did not even recognize. It took me a minute to figure out, oh my God, that's Elijah Wood in this film.
So good.
And you've got a story about that.
Yeah, so originally he was not going to be in this movie. It was actually cast already. Yeah. Someone else was going to be coming in to do it. And when they were going to film that scene, like I said, they had someone else. But Oz heard that Elijah Wood was going to be in Vancouver for Comic-Con. And so they sent them the script because they kind of just look at it, see if you'd be interested. And after reading it, Wood wanted to be a part. He was like, "Yes, please sign me up." And so he wound up playing this character, and it wasn't just easy because he was only available for 1 or 2 days.
Mhm.
And while he's only in it for a short amount of time, there was a lot more that went into him being in this movie because he plays an author that likes to display all of his books in his home. So you see all the little photographs of him in all these books. So he had to have like a massive photo shoot for these pictures. And then he also had to get all of his filming done in a very short amount of time. So they made it work and he killed the role, but it was a scramble to get it done.
Yeah, definitely. So it just opened last weekend and it earned over $14 million. It was made for $10 million. So it already made its money back and then some. Filming began February 5th last year in Vancouver, BC, wrapped up on March 22nd. The original story by Stephen King featured a monkey that crashed two symbols together, but they could not use that monkey in the film because, believe it or not, the Walt Disney World Company, they own it. Walt Disney owns it.
How do you own the toy? Because the toy is its own thing.
And that's why, because the symbol playing monkey was featured in Toy Story 3.
Right. And so it was great in that movie.
Yeah, it was. And the director of the film, the only reason he put it in the movie to begin with was because he's a huge Stephen King fan. And then it turns out, oh, hey, by the way, we're Disney and you can't use it in your little dog and pony show here. So
honestly, though, I think the drum is cooler.
Yeah. So they switched it from cymbals to drums, and I agree.
Yeah.
I think the drums are much more dramatic than the cymbal. The cymbal, I think, would be a little goofy to see.
And
it
would
screen.
be much more obnoxious because the cymbal sound is not nearly as nice as a snare drum.
Right.
So
Yeah, I agree. I think they should have done that regardless.
Yeah.
So quick summary on the movie. 2025 horror comedy follows twin brothers Hal and Bill who encounter a cursed toy monkey that causes random fatal accidents when it's wound up.
Understatement of the year.
I know. It's got a little turnkey in the back, so you have to wind it up like any toy. As they grow older, the brothers must confront the toy's deadly influence once more. So we start out when they're kids. It jumps 25 years to when they're adults. So there's two parts to this story. And let's get right into it.
Let's do it. So we've got it starts in 1999 when Petey Shelbourne, he attempts to return this monkey toy to a pawn shop, and he has some blood on him, so he's been through hell and back, and he's just like, just take it. And the pawn store owner's like, I mean, we don't do returns on toys. And he's just like, I don't get, like, just take it. So we get our first instance because the little monkey, he starts to play the drums, and then we see this Rube Goldberg type of situation where this little rat comes over, chews a little rope, which then results in a harpoon gun going off and going right through the midsection of the pawn store owner. And you think, okay, that's going to be it. No. Now it then retracts, taking all of his guts out. So we need to play a sound.
We sure do.
Opening kill.
It's so off the bat that I forgot that we had to play a sound first.
So 3 minutes and 53 seconds after the opening
credits,
studio titles start to roll in there, we get our first kill.
All right. Yeah, right to it. It's it's an easy butcher knife for me.
It's an easy butcher knife. My first butcher knife.
It is your first butcher knife.
My first butcher knife kill.
It's my third consecutive.
Yeah.
So I'm just a slut for the butcher knife rating.
Oh my God.
I'll throw it out to anything, I guess.
I would give butcher knife, ratings to every single kill in this film, just about. I
don't think there's a bad one.
I don't think there is either. They're all so creative.
They're all crafted so well. It's incredible. But yeah, this one is. It's just the shock of the retraction of the harpoon gun bringing all of his guts that sent me to the moon. I was just, because at first I was like, okay, that's kind of lame. And then the retraction happens. You're like, genius.
Because you don't expect it. You think the scene is over at that point. And there's more.
Yeah. There's much more.
There's much more.
then it just, after this, the retraction, he falls dead. It does cut to Adam Scott with a flamethrower melting the monkey.
We have to add that Captain Petey, played by Adam Scott.
God, I love him in Step Brothers.
He is the father of Hal and Bill, the two brothers. But after this incident, he disappears. And he just kind of goes away.
And that's definitely a theme in this movie is absentee fathers and the trauma that they pass on to their sons. And in such a goofy ass movie, it does have like an actual, like some really core themes throughout it. And that being one of them. And I think it honestly handles it pretty well.
Oh, I do.
Even
too.
though
I
it's
think
kind of
so,
silly.
too.
You're like, I get the message and message received.
So years after this happens, the boys discover the monkey in a closet containing their father's belongings,
Right.
basically. And
It's unclear. It's not that he dies, right?
I think he just leaves.
They just find it. Yeah. Okay.
That's the one thing that I do wonder about, because they don't explain why the father disappears, but he
Right.
just abandons his family, basically, I guess.
I think there's a similar theme where I think he does it to keep him safe, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. But
Right.
yeah, they're going through his crap and they stumble upon the old monkey toy, which I do have to say something. It's not technically a monkey. It is a chimpanzee because it does not have a tail, so it is an ape. But that is one of my biggest toxic traits I have to point that out every time I see it. Because
Okay.
Curious George,
Yeah.
also not a monkey.
Right.
But
Right.
whatever.
Okay. Well, I'll take I know nothing about monkeys.
I am a
but
big monkey person. I have
Well,
over
that's
like
good to know.
100 stuffed animal monkeys in a couple bins. It was what I collected them growing up.
Okay, I don't need to know anymore. I think that's about enough.
It's a cute childhood story, Brian.
Yeah, for another show. Yeah, exactly. So anyway, they find
That might
have
say
some
more about me than
Have some more. Do I need to make you another drink?
No, I think I'm okay.
You have your Rolling Rock. I'm going to say shout out to researcher Jillian, who not here this week. She was here last week. And,
Yeah, she was supposed to make me a tequila sunrise.
and she didn't do that. She
No,
didn't show up this
it's rude.
week. I know, but I did get a recipe for old fashioned, so I'll
There
be
you go.
sipping on this all night. Anyway, back to this. So they wind the monkey after they find it in their father's closet. And later that evening, they are out to dinner with the babysitter. Her name is Annie Wilkes.
Which, I mean, I definitely has a huge Stephen King.
Oh my God.
Did you pick that up immediately?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
You know what? Here's the deal. What's funny about this, I recognized the name, but I didn't even place it and didn't even think of too much about it. Annie Wilkes is the name of Kathy Bates' character in the movie Misery, based on what? A Stephen King novel.
Yep.
So there's that. So the babysitter's name is Annie Wilkes. They go to a teppanyaki restaurant, and she's sitting there with the boys, and the monkey starts banging his drum.
In the back of the car, because they brought him with, and they
Yeah.
just left him in the back seat of the car.
Exactly.
And one of the boys, is his name Bill? Yeah, Bill. He's kind of like the big turd brother.
He's the bully.
He sucks.
By the way, can we just say this is like the third movie now where we deal with a kid who's being bullied?
Yeah,
That's
true.
three. That's
Yeah.
3 in a row.
And there's a
'cause-
couple scenes of him getting Hal getting bullied that are
I know.
batshit crazy that
Yeah.
we'll touch on. But Bill, while he's getting in the car with like the babysitter, he's like hitting on her and just
And these are they even teenagers
I
at
don't
this
know.
point? They're
Like
right in the middle.
12 maybe,
Yeah.
something like that. I don't know. But yeah, he's got a crush on the babysitter, and so they're at dinner, and the chef is doing his thing, doing like the knife tricks, flinging the food around, and then the monkey gets done playing, and he does like a little swoop with his knife.
Yep.
And clean cuts the babysitter's head right off, which then falls onto the goddamn grill.
Right. And you don't realize what's happened at
No.
first. You have an idea that something happened, but
Yeah.
she's just sitting there with no expression on her face, but you don't see any blood yet or anything else. And then slowly that head starts to
It slides off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you don't know that right away. You're like, something just happened.
Like
What is
someone
it?
got fucked, but we don't know who yet. And like you can tell by the look on the chef's face, he's just like, "Oh, I'm getting
Right.
fired."
Right. And so that's kill number 2.
Yeah.
Annie decapitated by chef's cleaver. And I mean,
I mean, great kill, but it leads us into one of the best scenes of the movie, her funeral.
oh my God. This is amazing. I think there's a couple of funeral scenes, and it is led by a priest. Nico Del Rio is the actor, and he's credited as rookie priest. He's a young kid,
Yeah.
you know.
And he just
Oh my
I knew
God.
I knew I was going to love him when he walks up to the podium and this quote, fuck.
Because he looks over at the body. It's an open casket funeral.
Yeah, that was a choice.
Yeah, that was a choice. That
Yeah.
was a choice. But I laughed my ass off when he starts doing the sermon. I mean, I don't want to give away all the punchlines here because you need to go see this, but funniest thing in the damn film. And that's why I think these 2 funeral scenes are actually my favorite scenes. I'll separate those from my favorite kills, which we'll get into later.
Right.
But I just think for the comedy and it's more than comic relief with this guy. He's just
genuinely fucking hilarious
and irreverent.
And like he's just there's a lot of like puns based off decapitation, and it's not funny,
not intentionally irreverent.
No,
he doesn't
like
know
he's trying to legitimately give a sermon, and he just keeps doing shit, and he goes like, "Oh, I mean, not like that. Oh, wait, well."
And he's obviously brand new at this, which is why they credited him as rookie priest. He probably hasn't done one of these before.
That's his first one.
Got to learn somehow.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, just dive in. Don't no time to dip your toes in.
Yeah, exactly.
Just such a funny scene, though. Oh my God. And the kind of like just based off the church, did you know that for some of the marketing, they held a open invitation for churches to screen the film?
Oh, no,
I don't know if any church took them up on it, but I love that they did that.
That's amazing. That is amazing. Yeah, I can't imagine any churches really taking them up on that, but the offer was made anyway. So
I mean, if I ran a church, we would have played the monkey.
And thank God you don't.
Yeah, it's probably good. Probably for the best.
So Bill, the bully brother, continues to bully Hal, and it gets worse and worse. So at this point, poor Hal, sweet little kid, he wants to kill his brother.
But he's getting it not just from Bill, he's getting it from everybody. He's got these two girls that bully the shit out of him. And they like, you don't get to see what happens, but he's in the gym. This posse rolls up with like a giant thing of bananas, and then you see him walking in the house just plastered with bananas.
Right. Yeah. There's another scene where they say, you're not the one that wears the pants in your family. And so they make him take off his pants. So you see him coming home from school without any pants on, just his underwear. You okay over there? See, this is how
I
funny.
Choked on
your beer.
On my
I know.
drink.
This is how funny this film is. So he shows up, and again, he's just, this poor kid is bullied not only by the kids at school, but also by his own
shitty brother.
And he is a shithead.
I hated him.
He was not, and he gets worse as the film goes on. But anyway, so now he wants to kill his brother. So he pulls out that monkey. At this point, they're starting to maybe think the monkey.
They know there is a connection.
Yeah.
They just don't entirely know quite how it completely works yet.
Right. So Hal decides to wind up the monkey again, thinking it's going to kill
Bill. He's telling it. He's like, I need you to kill Bill. Kill Bill. Kill Bill. Well, that's kind of a Quentin Tarantino movie right there.
It kind of is, isn't it? Unfortunately, that's not how this monkey operates.
No,
it's very random.
He's his own boss. He does what he wants.
So sadly, it doesn't kill Bill. What happens is, Bill walks into the kitchen, and just as his mom is now suffering this
aneurysm or
brain
something?
aneurysm.
Because she's bleeding out of her ears and her eyes too, I
think so.
Yeah.
And then she just drops. And so the monkey strikes again and kills Mom, and that is kill number 3.
Yeah.
Her name was Lois.
Lois was hilarious too. There's a couple of scenes at one of the funerals where she's just like talking about how life is awful and like everyone's going to die. You're going to die.
Oh my God.
Who knows when we're going to die?
Yeah.
Just really traumatizing her already traumatized children.
Not a great mother.
But a funny one.
A very funny one.
Very funny.
Yeah, that's not how you would be talking to your children after they witness something. Because they were sitting right next to the babysitter in the restaurant when, that happened. But Lois, the mother, played by Tatiana Maslany, and she did a great job.
Incredible
while she was with us, which wasn't very long.
It wasn't,
into the film.
but she was so much fun.
So now without Mom, and of course Dad left the picture, in the first scene of the movie, the boys are shipped off
to Maine.
To Maine, which this is another theme. This is a Stephen King thing. If you read Stephen King, familiar with him at all, he lives in Maine, and all of his stories, whether they're novels, novellas, short stories, are set in Maine or have some connection to Maine. So this is not surprising that they now move to Maine, and they move in with Uncle Chip and Aunt Ida. Uncle Chip, played by Osgood Perkins, who goes by Oz Perkins, I think, and he changes his name slightly for the acting credit. And then Sarah Levy plays Ida, and they're both great actors.
So much fun. Like Uncle Chip, he pulls the boys to talk to him. He's like, okay, we're going to do our best. It's probably not going to be good. Mm-hmm. We're also swingers.
Yeah.
It's just
right.
His little pep talk is iconic. And then
Well, and we do mention too that because Hal feels super guilty now that Mom
Right.
did, so he takes a meat cleaver
Oh,
to the
yeah.
monkey and chops it into pieces, trying to destroy it.
And the meat cleaver, like when he cuts, like the monkey's bleeding.
Yes,
which
there's
is an
actual
interesting
blood.
Yeah.
Yeah. However, the monkey shows up at their new house in Maine. Just
Ye-
mysteriously arrives, like, "Hey, here I am," and it's all in one piece.
Yeah, it's something's up with this thing.
Something is up.
He's got
so-
some sort of powers that are never explained, and I kind of like that they're
I
not.
do too. Yeah.
Just
But-
let it be a mystical monkey.
Well, Bill wants to test this monkey out now. And this is where we get to the next kill. And Uncle Chip didn't deserve this.
He didn't. He was off at a
hunting
trip
Yeah,
or something.
yeah.
And just this is another example where the editing in this movie adds so much, because just how they portrayed the death of Uncle Chip was like, he's here 1 second, and then it just cuts to his tacky ass funeral poster.
Oh my God. Well,
And-
yeah. I mean, and they do reveal.
They do,
that
but like
they don't. So he was in his sleeping bag and he stampeded. What did they say? By like
It's like-
64 horses
like
or
a
something?
wild horses that just
Yeah, it was like
run him
many.
over.
It was a huge number, and they just trampled him. So they pulled the sleeping bag open in this flashback scene, and it's nothing. It doesn't. It's not even a body. It's
Yeah,
just
they're like,
all
it
the
looks like
guts and-
cherry pie,
It
and
does.
it did. It was
Oh God, it was gruesome. It was gruesome. That is kill number 4, Uncle Chip.
Again, though, it's like the most fucked up shit, but how they handle it, it's so over the top that it's just funny. Like, this isn't a movie, like, it's very gory, but it's not, it never feels icky.
Mhm.
It always is, it passes that
Yeah.
into just silly ridiculousness.
Yes,
And-
yes, and it continues to get even more ridiculous
Uh-huh.
as we move through this. And now the boys understand that this thing can't be destroyed,
Right.
so they seal it in its box and basically dump it into a well.
Mm-hmm.
And just, okay, that's it. Bye-bye. We're done now. And that's where we now flash 25 years forward into the future. And they're now adults. Hal has a son that he's allowed to see once a year. And I think it's more he doesn't want to
He doesn't.
pass the curse on to his kid.
Exactly. So that's why I was thinking
And
the
he's
father,
divorced.
their dad, didn't do it out of like ill intent. He
Right.
just wanted to keep him safe.
Right.
And I think that he probably, because he does eviscerate the monkey with the flamethrower.
Yeah.
But then it just shows up.
It does.
So you can't protect your loved ones.
Right.
It's gonna just show up where it wants.
So 25 years later, Hal has a son from his marriage, which ended a while back. He's divorced now. And the
He
son,
works at a grocery store.
something
and,
like that.
yeah.
They never really say what it is. And he has a kind of a funky coworker by the name of Dwayne, who
Boss, I think. It's his boss,
is
I
it?
think.
It might be his
He's
boss.
funny, though.
Yeah, he
There's
is funny.
a couple moments where he's talking. He's like, I gotta like get off work. I gotta go like pick up my son. He's like, oh, you only get to see him like once a year. That sucks. And he's like, no, I want it that way. He's just like, oh, okay.
Yeah,
His
but he ends
responses to everything is so funny.
He ends a lot of the stuff with, "Oh, that sucks."
Yeah, that
that
sucks.
sucks.
He's just vaping. He has these giant clouds in his fucking face of his
Which
smoke.
comes into
It
play
does.
later. Yeah, definitely. But so yeah, the Dwayne.
Bless
The
him.
characters in this film, they are so colorful.
They
and
are.
It's very creative. There's not one character in here that doesn't attract your attention in one way or the other.
No, they all steal their moments
Mhm,
and all memorable.
Right. So yeah, so now Hal's divorced and he's going to see his son Petey. So he shows up at his ex-wife's house, and the ex-wife is played by Laura Minnell, and her new husband is the character played by Elijah Wood,
Yes.
Ted Hammerman.
And he's kind of like that Joel Osteen.
Oh, Joel Osteen,
Kind of like
the
that.
minister. Yeah,
Yeah, but except for he's a like a parent coach, but he's that
Right.
version of like
Yes.
parent coach, just obnoxious.
You know, I didn't think about that, but
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And he's written tons of books, and
Yep.
he has them all displayed in his
Yes.
stupid house. And there's this moment where they're all sitting on the couch, just like they're holding hands and just being like, "Oh, like breathe this in." And they're breaking the news to Hal that Elijah Wood's character is gonna officially adopt
Mm-hmm.
the son, and therefore they don't need him anymore. It's like,
He'll never see him
yeah,
again.
it's like, you don't
basically,
need to see him again. It's gonna be great.
Yeah.
And Elijah Wood has this moment where he has this 8-gallon water bottle that is so preposterously big. And he's just like drinking from it. And then he randomly looks at Hallie. She's like, "You want to arm wrestle?" And like, of the most ridiculous moments in this movie, I feel like this is the most ridiculous. Just his stupid water bottle and the arm wrestling challenges sent me. I was dying.
So what happens next is that, Hal gets to take his son, Petey, and named after his own father, Petey. And so they're going to go do stuff and they're going cross country, whatever they're going to do. So they end up at this motel.
They're going to go to this horror
that's right. This
theme
horror
park
theme
or whatever.
Park, yeah. So on their way, it's quite a distance. So they spend the night in this town and they go to this motel. And Hal lies to his kid about being an only child.
Yeah.
Now, we have to say also at this point, he is estranged from his brother, the bully, Bill.
Right. Yeah, they have
talk. No contact. And he's actually kind of estranged from his son a little bit, too, only getting to see him, once a year. But the brother's out of the picture, hasn't talked to him in something like 10 years.
10 years, yeah.
I think.
He's like, I think he says, I haven't seen him in 15, haven't talked to him in 10.
Mm-hmm. And Petey is just getting more and more just kind of disillusioned with his father because he doesn't think he's being honest with him about things and doesn't think that he really cares about him. And just,
totally.
Yeah. And which is understandable.
And so, they're staying at this little like roadside hotel. And they have this moment where they're just going to bed. They kind of have a couple of conversations about like life. And this is where he lies to him about having a brother. And they're going to bed. And that's when Hal gets a call. He gets a call from Bill, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we also have this moment where, if you've noticed, the thermostat says hi. Mm-hmm. And it's the monkey contacting him. And because he also contacts Bill with a fortune cookie. So the monkey is kind of being like, hey, bitches, I'm back.
That's right.
And I think that's just like a cool little touch. But they're on the phone and Bill is telling him, hey, monkey's back. Like, shit's going to go bad. I need you to find it. Mm-hmm. And Hal doesn't want to hear it. He's like, no, I have my son. Like, we're not going to do this. I'm going to actually take him to this park. We're going to have fun because I'm never going to see him again after this.
So want to go back just a little bit because one of the reasons Bill is calling him too is to let him know that his Aunt Ida has died. But before Aunt Ida has died, we also have somebody at the motel that dies.
Yes.
And this is a very creative kill. So he's out in the parking lot. Yeah. He's talking to Bill and arguing. Mm-hmm. And the air conditioning unit that is on top of the roof of the motel.
It's a janky setup.
Oh my God, it is. And it starts to come loose and it finally breaks loose and it slides into the pool, electrifying the pool basically is what it does. Well, there's a it lands. What does it do? It lands in front of him.
It lands next to
in front of him.
But there's a puddle that leads to the pool.
Right. That's what it was. And so he looks over and there's a woman getting ready. She's on the diving board and he says, no, but it's too late. And she dives in and she literally fucking explodes.
That's what surprised me. I expected her to just like fry,
no, there's
blows
chunks.
up.
Yeah.
Her leg narrowly misses him. It just splats behind him against the window.
Yep.
Absolute mayhem.
Yeah. And then we find out that Aunt Ida, we see it in a flashback, basically, that she's next in this thing. And
this is my favorite kill just because of how many steps there are to it.
So it starts out with her going down into her basement.
Because she hears the monkey. So there's like a little song that plays as the monkey is playing his drum. And she's hearing that. And so she's just like, okay, like she's investigating. She has this revolver with the most comically long barrel I've ever seen. It looks like a gun like the Joker would use in Batman. So she's just walking around the house. She goes down to the basement, doesn't see anything. So she turns to go back up the stairs. And that's when the stairs just all fall apart. And she just face plants into these boxes. And unfortunately for her, the boxes were all full of like her husband's fishing lures.
Yeah.
So she lifts up her face and it's just completely covered.
All of these
in
hooks
fishing,
like hanging out.
just in her face. And So she's just in the bathroom taking them all out.
Let me just say, the three of us, you, me, and Danielle, we were dying laughing at this point.
So
because
stupid.
It was.
Just, it's like just how she lifts up. She's like, ah! this is covered. So she's in the bathroom picking all these things out. And that's when she hears something else that leads her to the kitchen. And for some reason, she shoves her face direct. Oh, yeah, she smells the gas.
The gas coming from the oven.
Smelling, puts her face right down into the stove, and then it just ignites, and she's completely engulfed her head.
Yeah, her head is. She's like a Roman candle. Her head. She's running around. The only thing on fire is her head,
and the effect here is killer. Like you can tell when it first ignites, it's CG, but then you see her running around, and I don't think it is.
No,
I think it's a legitimate fire stunt, and I love those.
Well, and she had also put ointment on her face.
Yeah. Oh,
and
that's right.
And
that's what made it accelerate.
Made it this torch. She looked like a human torch.
She kind of looked like. Did you ever play Twisted Metal?
Oh yeah.
She looked like Sweet Tooth, the clown, with her flaming head.
Oh my God.
So yeah, she's running around, and then it's so dumb. She runs out the front door, and then her stupid feet get caught in like this milk jug. So she's just stumbling down the hill, and she's selling her house.
Yeah.
So she has this for sale sign, and I don't know who approved this design, because the for sale sign has this long spike sticking out the side. And she runs mouth first into it, and it goes out the back of her head.
It's pointed straight at the front porch.
Yeah.
So it's right in her bath. So she just, that was a very cool kill.
So we got fishing lures, we got ointment, flames, milk jugs, and a for sale sign.
So Aunt Ida is killed. She can be either 5 or 6. You could switch the swimmer and Ida because it happens kind of within the same sequence here. But it's crazy. That's not what you were expecting. So Bill, gets the call from his brother back at the motel, and saying, Aunt Ida has died and the monkey's back. Go to her house. They're having an estate sale.
Right.
And that's where now this is the part you can maybe clarify, because I must have been taking a note and I got a little confused, because the next thing I know, this teenager shows up at the estate sale, sees the monkey and buys it.
Yeah. So he arrives there, as I guess just as it's happening. And yeah, he sees it and buys it. And we do learn why later on. And I think that it was just Bill making sure just lessening the room for error, I think, sending him as well. Because you learn that he's, I mean, if you're around here so far, you've seen the movie probably.
Yeah.
So he's hired by Bill as well to buy the monkey, to make sure that it gets into Bill's hands. And I think it's just him having more soldiers on the ground, like that kind of thing.
Right.
So yeah, we learned, and this kid, he's played by, what is his name? Rowan Campbell, who is, if you saw Halloween Ends, he is the not Michael Myers.
Oh, right.
But kind of Michael Myers character in that movie. But in this one, he's so emo. He's got you never see his face really, because his hair is always in the middle of it. And he's just like this kind of grungy rocker dude.
Right.
Definitely very sad. But yeah, he ends up buying the monkey. And then he takes it to his house, and you learn he's got an absent father as well.
Yes. Imagine that.
Yeah, imagine that. Everyone's has an absent father in this one.
And you find out also during this time in the movie that other accidents have happened around town. And then
that's because we learned this once Hal actually shows up to the house, because he shows up and there's like a realtor there trying to sell him the house.
Yes.
Because I think he shows up a little late. I think the sale's done.
Yeah, I think so.
So she's now just trying to resell this thing. So yeah, she's there. And walks up to this window, and their entire interaction is so funny. Whoever plays this lady did an incredible job. Tess Degenstein, shout out to Tess, because
Barbara, the real estate
what
agent.
a funny character. Just how
God.
She's such a seller. She's handing the card to Hal, and then she sees his kid in the passenger. She's like, "Do you want one too?" And he's just like,
"Oh, he tells her." I mean, he really puts her in her place.
And so she goes "So no card."
It was pretty funny.
So funny.
Yeah.
And then we also get a throwaway line where PD has this flyer of he's like, "We should go skydiving." As they're walking into the house, she's like, "Oh, look, they do weddings. Just remember that."
Yeah, remember that little tidbit. We'll circle back around.
It pays off.
So we find out so Hal is going in to look in the house
Mhm.
and he's really after the monkey. That's all he
Right.
cares about. But now we find out other things have happened around town because the damn monkey has been wound up and doing his thing. The first one, character by the name of Mitchell McDonald, just an innocent neighbor somewhere in town, resident of the town. He's basically chewed up. His torso is chewed up by a lawnmower.
Yeah, you just
And the only thing you see is a neighbor standing at the fence watching him, and he just gets splattered with blood. Splattered is not the right word. Drenched in blood. Yeah.
It's kind of like that neighbor in Home Improvement that's just peeking over the fence, just getting covered.
What I love about this is there's no reaction from this guy.
No.
He's just deadpan the whole time.
I'd be freaking out.
No kidding.
Not him, though.
There was another one right after that. Bert Bergerson is the name of the character. And he has an espresso machine and he bends down and the steam all of a sudden releases and melts his face off.
This one was gross.
It was pretty gross.
Like It's kind of like that scene in the Indiana Jones movie where all the Nazis' faces melt at the end.
Yes.
It's kind of like that.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
And then the third accident, I'm not impressed too much by this one. It wasn't that
It's pretty
great.
silly, though.
Yeah.
She's a golfer lady, so she's like sinks her putt and she goes over to grab her ball and a fucking cobra, not just like a normal snake, a cobra jumps out and just attacks her neck.
Yeah.
So stupid.
Yeah, very much so. So we're still in the house and now she's showing Hal kind of around and he's like, oh, did you happen to find during this estate sale, did you happen to find a toy monkey? And she's like, oh, gets very sad. A sentimental toy from your childhood?
He's like, oh, no.
No.
He's like, kinda. Something. She's showing him room to room, but he's just peeking out, trying to make sure if he sees the monkey to grab it. And there's this one moment where she's trying to get into this locked closet door, and she's struggling with the door. They're kind of just having a conversation. She finally gets it open, and as soon as she opens the door, she explodes.
And this is, you can't really even describe it. It's just that she gets shot, and the head just, the
body too. She gets eviscerated,
just disintegrated,
and so first I didn't know what happened. I'm like, because it's just so quick and abrupt,
right?
And then it pans into the closet, and it's definitely where all the guns were kept.
Yeah,
and there's stupid sign.
Oh my God,
in it.
the sign.
I
didn't see this.
Guns don't kill people. People kill people. But this gun killed her.
Technically, the monkey did, but the gun,
and I love that they had that sign because it's just
fantastic.
such a funny little touch.
It really is. So the police show up to investigate this, and they tell him not to leave go anywhere. It's not that they don't believe him, because I think they actually know
enough weird shit's happening that they're like, okay.
Yeah. So eventually now, Hal discovers that Bill is actually in this town.
Should we talk about when they take the realtor's body out of the house?
Oh God, I forgot. Because it does tie into the ending of this. Oh yeah.
So all the news is there.
Right.
And for some reason, a gaggle of cheerleaders are also there. And as they roll this body out, the cheerleaders go, they're bringing the body out. Yay!
And they start into this cheer. It's like the most bizarre thing ever. It's crazy. And they show up to another one too. It's not just this one. You see them more than once.
There's a special screening for this where during I think it was when the director was there. It was during a Q&A, and they actually had blood-soaked cheerleaders run from the back down the aisles cheering.
That is so funny.
Yeah, what a great random characters these cheerleaders are.
So probably a good time to talk a little bit before we move on to the end of the movie. So the original script that Osgood Perkins received from the studio was very, very serious.
Yeah.
And he immediately said, this isn't going to work for me.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, death is just such a morbid thing and all this, and that his parents actually died. I think his quote was their deaths would have made headlines because they were so, his father, Anthony Perkins, the great actor Anthony Perkins, it did make headlines, but his mom died kind of bizarrely too, apparently. And so he wanted to infuse comedy into this, because not to take death so seriously because everybody dies
Yep.
sometime.
Absolutely.
And so that was kind of, you may have the
I
actual
have his
quote,
like
but-
actual quote. So I took liberties like a motherfucker. They had a very serious script, and I felt it was too serious. I'm like, this doesn't work for me. The thing with this toy monkey is that people around it die in insane ways. So I thought, well, I'm an expert on that. Both my parents died in insane headline-making ways. I spent a lot of my life recovering from tragedy, feeling quite bad. It all seemed inherently unfair. And you personalize the grief. Why is this happening to me? But I'm older now, and you realize this shit happens to everybody. Everyone dies, sometimes in their sleep, sometimes in truly insane ways. And I thought the best way to approach that was with humor.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's why you see so much humor. I mean, yeah, I would love to read the original script just to compare to what they
I'm
actually
curious
shot.
now. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. But
I'm glad that Osgood went this route.
Yes.
It made it so much more memorable and just its own thing.
yeah. Yeah, but the cheerleaders just it's the most bizarre out of left field thing.
So
I mean, you just
crazy.
don't expect that. I mean, that really turns it into a comedy for a couple of minutes. It goes from comedy horror to just almost strictly comedy parody type stuff. But I thought it was great to see that.
I saw someone say this movie, the humor in it is very like early Family Guy.
Mm-hmm.
And that is 100% true. Because
yeah.
early Family
Yeah.
Guy is like, a lot of the humor is super violent.
Yep.
And
agreed.
like this is, as soon as I read that, I'm like, that is actually the perfect way to describe it.
Yeah, I think
Early
so too.
Family Guy.
I think so too. So Hal ends up discovering that Bill is living in town and has the monkey in his possession, and he had hired Ricky to retrieve it for him. And Bill actually has suspected all along that Hal was responsible for their mother's death.
Yeah. And Bill is, you're introduced to him in this moment where, so as a kid, after going to so many funerals, he said, I'm not going to take my funeral suit off.
Right.
Because he's assuming people are going to die immediately. So he doesn't want to take it off. And as an adult, you actually see him still wearing it. He just altered it a little bit.
Yeah.
So it's now in this like crop top thing with like this undershirt of flames. Like it's the dumbest outfit ever. But
Right.
I love that they still have him in it. It's just another hilarious character moment.
And he's literally spent years waiting for the monkey to show up again so he could basically,
And he's got like his own little Batman like super villain
that was
lair.
unexpected too. That was that for me was a little bit weird. I mean,
But it works because the movie's so
does.
weird. But
It
like
does.
it honestly looks, if you ever played the Batman Arkham games,
Mhm.
it is literally like the Riddler's setup. So like that was my original thought when I saw it. I was like, oh, it's like the Riddler.
Right. Well, and Bill, now that he has the monkey, also has figured out that whoever turns the key will be spared. They're not going to be
they
killed.
don't die.
And that whoever does turn the key has absolutely zero control over who it kills.
Right.
It's totally random. So there's no way to actually target a specific person.
Yep.
So,
Which is why all these kills are just random people.
and they are random. And like we just told you about, the first 10 of them already here. And yeah. And we should talk about the next one coming up here, which is pretty interesting. And it's Dwayne. This is Hal's boss, who is he's standing outside a vending machine. Is that
I don't know what he's
it
doing.
is?
He's just
But he's vaping.
vaping.
Yeah, he's vaping. And so he turns and he takes a step and he steps on the end of a rake. So the handle of the rake comes flying at him and it takes his vape pen and like turns it sideways down his throat.
Yeah, like you can see it in
Yeah.
his throat just sticking out to the side. So yeah, Dwayne be dead now.
He suffocates on his own vaping pen.
Well, that's what you get. Vaping kills.
It does. Apparently in this movie, it does.
Very special ways.
Absolutely, it does. So Bill is now calling Hal again, and he demands that he brings his son Petey
Right.
to his
Well, that
bat
was his
cave.
thing. He's like, because Hal didn't want to bring him because he's like, I can't risk Petey's dying. And
Yeah.
so Bill's just like, we'll have him turn the key then.
Yeah.
Because he'll be safe.
Right. And at this point, Bill is trying to kill Hal.
Yeah.
He wants Hal dead.
Straight up.
He holds him responsible, obviously, for killing their mother.
Right.
And so he wants Petey to come and turn the key, and, we'll see what happens with it. And you're right. In the meantime, Ricky,
dressed as a cop
because his dad was a cop.
Exactly. And he has this moment where I don't know why it's the dumbest line, but there's so many quotable lines in this movie.
Yeah.
And he's just like, my mom always said my dad left to chase pussy, but I was like, but Dad, there's pussy in town.
Yeah, exactly. That was so funny. So Ricky, he wants to buy the monkey from Bill.
And I think this is a cool thing where it's like, it shows that the monkey has an influence, because instantly Ricky was just like Gollum in the ring. He's like, I need it. Like, I need this.
My precious.
Yeah, my precious.
Yeah, right.
Very Gollum-y.
Yeah, and Bill tells him, no, go away. And so that's when Ricky goes home and gets into his dad's closet and pulls out his police uniform and then shows up at the motel where, Hal and Petey are staying, and pulls a gun on him and says, you're coming with me. We're going to the Batcave.
We're gonna go find the Riddler and get the monkey from him.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. So they show up and Petey, goes in and he goes through like a doggy door.
Yeah, because he's the only one who can kind of like fit into the doggy door. So they send him, and it's very like, there's so many like Kevin McAllister could have set this house up, because there's booby traps everywhere.
Tripwires and all kinds of other things. And he manages to evade those.
He does.
Yeah. And it's great because he shows up and, he gets up the stairs into this warehouse and he sees his uncle, who, by the way, he's never met before. They've never met each other. This is the first time. And he just looks at him, Uncle Bill, and Bill turns and...
Oh, didn't we mention it's played by the same guy? Theo James plays both Hal and Bill.
Yeah. That's true. He does. And the younger kids are also played by the same actor. Kid's name is Christian Convery.
Okay.
And he plays the young version of Hal and Bill early on in the film. But then the same actor plays them as an adult, which is very cool.
Yeah.
So while Petey is maneuvering through all of the traps and everything, we have Hal and we have Ricky sitting in the car. Ricky has his gun and he accidentally fires it, through the windshield. And they had noticed that there was this huge ass wasp nest hanging from a tree branch. And this is at night in front of the house where they're parked, this warehouse where they're parked. And so he shoots it. And it's because the monkey has been wound again, I think.
Bill's just rapid firing.
Yeah, he's
at this
doing
point.
that. So the bullet from the gun goes through the car's windshield and it punctures the hive, the wasp nest, and which leads up to my favorite kill, because now the wasps are pissed.
Yeah. You see him, one of them just kind of like peek its head out and be like, oh, you motherfucker, you dying today.
And all of his buddies fall in line and they all make a literal beeline and they go through the bullet hole in the windshield and all of them go right into Ricky's mouth.
Yeah.
This kill is crazy because there's hundreds of them and they go into his mouth and they basically dislodge his jawbone.
Right. And I don't know what they do in there.
I don't know either.
They decimate his whole mouth region.
Yeah, the jaw actually falls off, and then you see these punctures coming out of his face as the bees are like...
It kind of looks like they had like acid or something, because it does feel like the jaw melts away.
It kind of does.
It's very graphic.
And then you have Hal sitting right next to him going, what the hell? And he bails out.
Right.
And then he kind of runs towards, the warehouse and goes through the doggy door a little bit and then, sees.
Yeah, they all end up at the, together in the main lair.
Yeah, they absolutely do. And so we get more kills coming up here. And this is the interesting thing. And, these happened so quick. And I remember we're taking notes in the movie theater and then all of a sudden these things start happening. And it's
we were like doing a good job, I feel. And
I
then,
think so.
So there's actually a point where, Bill, for some reason, decides to try to force the monkey to drum. I don't know why he makes this choice.
He does.
But he does.
Yeah.
He's like fighting the arm, trying to make it go down. Yeah. And then the monkey kind of like punches him, causing him to fly across the room.
Yeah.
And then he's just there and he just starts like rapid firing, drumming like Travis Barker. And then like he stops and then absolute mayhem happens. And this is where we both looked at each other and went,
oh,
fuck.
shit.
Like we're fucked now.
How do we keep track of this? So we have an unnamed woman and an unnamed man that come crashing through the ceiling. Now, we talked about the parachute
Yeah.
thing,
The
the lessons.
skydiving that has weddings.
Right.
And that's what, because we didn't know what they were at first.
Yeah.
We both looked at each other like, were they like, what happened here?
Yeah.
Because they just crashed through the ceilings.
Because there's another scene prior to this where a jet airliner is on fire and it crashes. And that was from the monkey too. So
right.
I
and
was
that's
thinking,
where we're like, well, fuck, how do we count this?
Yeah,
Like, it's an airplane full of people. Like,
you can't.
yeah.
And were these two individuals on the plane? Or then it was like, no, they're not. They weren't on that plane.
Right.
They were on the skydiving.
They were on the skydiving plane because it's a bride and groom. And then it's another dude, I'm assuming is just the officiator of the wedding.
I think so, because the groom is there. And then you look and there's another woman who is hanging by her parachute.
Right.
Dead.
And she's she's definitely a bride.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
But yeah, it's.
So those are kills 13, 14, and 15.
And then, yes, we're not going to count the airplane because it's literally impossible.
Yeah, you don't know. And there's
But hundreds of people die in this movie.
well,
Thousands,
there are.
maybe even.
There could be, and there are other scenes where you see kind of the aftermath, like, but you just don't know how many people are involved. So
Right.
There's no way for us to count those. I know some people, some sources and sites have, done that. Some have only
Once
limited
like
this.
the DVD comes out, I'm sure there's going to be people who
Yeah.
really figure out exactly how many people die.
Well, with the plane, I think the airliner, it's impossible. You just don't know how many
I was
were on
listening.
there.
I was listening to like maybe they were going to say.
Oh, right.
But they
never
don't,
do. Yeah.
So.
So that one, you just know a lot of people have died there. And then the next kill coming up is Brother Bill,
Which
the bully.
pays off. So Osgood Perkins is great at with the skydiving thing.
Mhm.
This little throwaway moment pays off. And
Right.
here's another one, because in the beginning you have almost like a fantasy moment where Hal is wanting, he like pretends to drop a bowling ball on Bill's sleeping head
When they were
It
kids.
was super graphic scene as well.
my
so
God,
you see
yeah.
it crush the kid's
Yeah.
face. But it's a bowling ball.
Right.
And that moment comes full circle here.
Because it says Lois on it, which
Yep.
was their mother. So it was their mother's bowling ball.
Yes.
And that was actually a dream sequence.
Mhm.
But maybe not a dream,
I think
but
it was
it was a
daydreaming,
daydream
like,
thing.
Him wanting to do it.
Right. And he never does.
No.
So we don't count it as a kill because it really wasn't a kill. But
Right. You see it, but yeah.
But it was graphic because he drops the bowling ball on the head just like
Mhm.
it's mush.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so this
I
is
saw a still shot, a screen grab
Oh, did you?
of that, and you look at it, and you can tell that it's just seeing a frozen image of it, that it's not a real person, obviously, but but it's pretty messy.
And the fact that it was a kid was also like extra kind of like, oh shit.
Yes. We're seeing more and more of that.
I know.
guess
Directors are getting bolder
people
and
don't
bolder.
give a shit anymore. They're just whatever.
Fuck them kids.
Yeah, exactly.
No one cares.
Yeah.
Bill's death involves a Rube Goldberg situation as well, where bowling balls rolling down this thing, falls into this cannon, and then the cannon shoots it
Mhm.
and takes his head off, and you see his smashed head
Oh my
like,
God.
just gush, and then the bowling ball just perfectly there in the center with Lois.
So one thing that I was happy they did in this film just prior to Bill's death, the two brothers actually do reconcile.
They do.
And Bill realizes that, I've been pissed off at you for all of these years for killing our mother, but now I'm realizing it was your mother too, because that's what Hal tells him. He said, that was
Right.
my mother too. Did you think I intended to kill our mother?
Right.
And so they do have this moment. And one of the things that Bill would do as a kid, whenever they would shake on a deal, Bill would take his hand and, it's just about right as they were going to shake, he just like
Smooth his
smooth
hair
his
back.
hair out. And he offers his hand to Hal at the very end to reconcile. And Hal goes to take it. And he does the same motion, does it again. And then, I'm like, oh God. And then, so the third time
was the
they
charm.
actually shook hands. And so there was a very touching moment. And I was glad to see that.
That
That was
definitely needed that.
Yeah.
So the brothers didn't die enemies.
Right. But he did die. Like
He did
moments later, that bowling ball is shot from the cannon. And that actually was unexpected. I did not think that. I thought that was going to be it.
Right.
I thought that when Ricky died, or all of the other people that fell through the roof, those were the last of the deaths. I
Right.
did not think one of the brothers would die.
No, that monkey did a lot of drumming. So there's
Well, and that monkey's not quite done yet
No,
because
no, they're because how rapid that drumming was.
Yeah.
There's got to be a lot. It's a lot of people.
Yep.
To pay.
So Hal takes Petey, and now it's daytime, and they're driving through this town in Maine, and it's just been devastated. You're seeing houses on fire. You're seeing all of these other things.
And it shows the sign of the town. And did you notice the sign says birthplace of its residents? Just this
I don't
another
think I saw
stupid
that.
joke.
Oh
Just-
my God. No, I guess I didn't pick up on that. That is funny. So they come to this intersection and they see this pale, almost white, totally white figure. It's a man. It's an old man on a pale horse.
Well, first there's the surfer dude somehow impaled by a surfboard.
Was that first or was that after that?
No, that was first.
That was first.
Same with
Okay.
and then same with the unnamed baby.
So this was kind of weird. This was like a mother pushing a baby carriage with flames shooting out of the baby carriage. So there's a baby death, and then you're right, the unnamed
The surfer
person,
dude.
the surfer who's impaled by a surfboard.
Surfing in the middle of Maine.
Right.
Is that
I
good
guess that's a
surf
thing.
weather there? I don't know.
It seems pretty cold to
Seems-
be surfing off
yeah,
the coast of New
but, I
England.
mean-
I don't know. And then I guess, then the pale man on the pale horse.
And there is a lot of reference to behold the pale horse. I think it's in the Bible, I think.
Mhm.
Is it like Revelation or something like that?
Yeah.
So yeah, the four horsemen of the apocalypse is a
Right.
very common thing being said throughout the movie.
Right.
And again, it pays off here at the end where you see it.
Yeah.
And he almost like looks at how, and it is because I think that's the symbol of death himself, right? And so he just looks exhausted
Yeah.
because he's had a day.
He's that's one way to put it.
Like,
Yeah.
he's been busy.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, that was like, I've seen a lot of people online who don't like that. They're like, it just felt out of place. I'm like, but not really if you were listening to a lot of the conversations.
So, and right after we see that, there is one more incident, and it claims 10 people at once. And this was the most amazing way to end
And the
film.
movie. We have the cheerleaders make their return.
Yay!
And they're still cheering. They're leaning out the window being like,
They're on a bus. Yeah, they're on a
"Woo!"
school bus.
Even though you can see all the death and destruction around, they're still having a jolly good time. And that is when a semi sideswipes the bus and decapitates every single one of them.
because they're all hanging their heads
Yeah.
out the window cheering. And it was like, I remember looking at you looking at me, and Danielle looked over like, holy shit. How do you, and we're trying to count really fast how
Yeah.
many cheerleaders, and then they cut before we get, I thought there were more, but apparently there were just 10 of them.
It's a nice round number.
It is.
That's a
It
nice
is.
number.
And all of them decapitated at the same time by this
Yep.
truck. It was pretty amazing. So, yeah, that brings our total kill count to 28. Now, there could be variations of this number depending on who's counting and
For sure.
what they're counting,
Right.
because these are the ones that we actually got to see.
Mm-hmm.
There are
And
so
there's
many-
like a couple other things where you see like a house being completely smoking. And then there's this one where you look in a field and there's a tractor driving that's completely engulfed in flames. So like
Right.
there's a lot more, but of the actual people
Mhm.
that you see, their physical body,
Yeah.
that's the count.
That's the count. 28. That might be a record.
Does that beat the Wolfman? Because that was the previous.
I'm going to have to go back and look and see what that
I
count
feel
was.
like that one was 26. I could be wrong, but like I would like to think this is the highest kill count so far.
During the break, I'll go look it up and see
Okay.
see what that was. I'm trying to think. I think, yeah, it was pretty close.
Mhm.
Pretty close. So we'll come back with that number. Who was your favorite character?
Favorite character, it's tough, but it's either Elijah Wood's Ted Hammerman or it is Rookie Priest. I'm having a really hard time picking between those two. Ugh,
Mine was definitely Rookie Priest, played by Nico Del Rio.
God, give him more roles. Give
Oh
him
my
all
God.
the roles.
He was so natural.
He
There was no
was.
acting. The acting, as they say, was invisible. He was just there, and it was, you just feel for the kid because he's brand new at this. And so to see that, I thought was pretty
It
cool.
was pretty incredible.
Yeah. Favorite kill.
I'm gonna go with Aunt Ida's, just because of how drawn out and ridiculous it was.
Okay.
I think that was probably my favorite.
Okay.
But there's so many.
I think for me, it was Ricky and the wasp kill.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah. The favorite scene, again, I think it's going to be the 2 funeral scenes. I'll wrap that up into one. I mean, there were some very cool things that happened in this movie. But for me, just the comedy, it was so unexpected. I mean, I knew there was comedy in this, but I did not think that you would see it that much in the funeral scene. So that's why, for me, that did it for me.
That's
so, yeah,
fair.
Yeah.
I think, again, seeing it, it's tough, man.
Mhm.
Like, there's so many great little moments here, but I'm gonna go with. I think I'm gonna copy you and go with my favorite scene being Rookie Priest giving his eulogy, because it's an absolute disaster.
Right.
But I did want to touch on a couple things here where Osgood does a couple of dream sequences
Mhm.
that I think are brilliant, because it allows him to show these really preposterous scenarios. One of them involves the child Hal being cut up by the monkey in a duplicate of that scene. And then there's this other one where Bill is at a strip club in a bucket hat. Where is the class? And one of the strippers bends down, and then you see the head between her legs, and it's the monkey's head.
Yeah.
Just so these really off the wall, fun little moments that I thought were worth touching on, because they're just really well done.
Absolutely. I totally agree. So what do you give it?
This is an easy 5-star from me.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's 5 stars for me too. This is the best movie I have seen this year in the horror genre,
which is crazy, just coming off Hard Eyes, because that was that was a 5-star from both of us there. So I think, like you, this tops it though.
Yeah. I think if it didn't have the comedy, if they had shot the original script that was way more serious, it wouldn't have had the impact it had on me.
It wouldn't have been as memorable.
I don't think so either. I think because, and they did it right. I mean, everything about this film, they really did it right.
Yeah, it's a monkey. It's a toy monkey killing people.
Mhm.
Just ham it up.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree with that. So, yeah, so I give it 5 stars. It is The Monkey from Osgood Perkins, in theaters now. Go see it.
Mm-hmm.
Coming up next, we will get into your scare preview.
Welcome to Jaunty Haunts, the podcast about all things supernatural. After 30 years of keeping a secret, I'm finally ready to share with the world that I see ghosts. This podcast is all about getting spooky and connecting with others who might also sense, see, or feel things beyond the ordinary. Whether you're a skeptic or a believer, let's connect, share, and maybe feel a little less crazy together.
You can listen to and binge Jaunty Haunts right now on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you podcast. Stay spooky, ghoul friends.
Okay, for the record, the Wolfman also had 28 kills.
Okay.
So this does tie for
Okay.
the most kills we've had on Opening Kill.
Alrighty.
28. How bizarre.
That's funny.
How bizarre. It is scare preview time. We always take this time at the end of the show, Michael and I, to preview a movie we are excited about. What is yours coming out?
So mine, again, a horror comedy. So I think 2025 is the year of the horror comedy. This one is called Hell of a Summer, and we actually saw the trailer for it when we went to see The Monkey.
True.
And this one is written and directed by Billy Burke and Finn Wolfhard, who is from Stranger Things.
He seems awfully young to be doing this, but
writing and directing. Yeah. This one looks like a blast. So it's all about counselors are getting Camp Pineway ready for they're getting ready the night before campers are arriving, and that is when a masked killer begins killing the staff. But there is the lead counselor here is like definitely older than everyone else, and there's this hilarious moment in the trailer where his mom is dropping him off. She's like, how many times are you going to do this? She's like, I'm not that old. It's still fun.
It looks very, very good. Very campy, obviously.
So much fun. Like, some of the humor in this, again, had me dying. So I think it's going to be incredible.
So mine is a movie called Until Dawn. And yes, it is based on the 2015 video game of the same name and set in the same universe. Directed by Swedish filmmaker David F. Sandberg. He did 2016's Lights Out, which was based on his short story.
I really like that movie.
Me too. He also directed Annabelle Creation back in 2017, among many, many other films. And it's about a girl, Clover, and her friends who head into a remote valley to find her sister Melanie, who had disappeared a year prior. And they find themselves horrifically murdered. And they wake up to find themselves back at the beginning of the same evening and creating a cycle where they continue to get killed over and over. And each time the kills are more terrifying than the last one. And their only chance of surviving is to survive until dawn. And if they can do that, then they come out of this alive. They wrapped up production on this film this past October in Budapest, and it's going to be released theatrically by Sony Pictures, releasing on April the 25th. So it looks very, very good.
This one looks fun. I like that there's like Wendigos in it. There's a ton of different creatures.
Yes.
And it just looks like it's going to be a blast. I learned what it was like a month ago. And so I looked into like the game and everything.
Okay.
And I was just like, okay, this looks sick.
I'd never played the game. I've seen it. But
Yeah,
I've never
played
the game
it either.
So yeah, definitely. So that is our scare preview. Some good stuff coming out. Again, we talk about this every week. 2024 was such a great year for movies. 2025 is right behind it. So
I mean, it's starting off strong.
it really is. It really is. So coming up next week. Oh God.
All right. This is going to be a good one.
We're going to do a film that is Michael's favorite vampire film. So our researcher, Shay,
what a sourpuss about this movie.
She gave you so much shit. She was on the show several weeks ago and giving you just a really hard time about this being your favorite. It is Daybreakers.
Daybreakers, starring Ethan Hunt and Willem Dafoe.
Ethan
and
who?
Hawk.
Yeah.
Hunt.
I don't know who Ethan Hunt is.
Isn't that the guy? Isn't that the Mission Impossible guy?
Ethan Hawke? No, I don't know who Ethan Hunt is.
I don't know.
Who
knows?
But
It's
Ethan Hawke.
Someone's named that.
It must be. Ethan Hawke. Sam Neill is in that.
Yeah.
I mean, there's
Dr. Grant.
There's a lot of people in this movie, and I have a feeling it'll be the first one that you and I are going to have very different opinions on.
Oh, that's a shame.
Make for good drama on Opening Kill.
Next week's getting dramatic.
Oh my God. Hey, subscribe and like us. Give us 5-star reviews. Tell your friends and family about us.
Yeah, share it to all the horror lovers in your life.
Yeah. If you have a film suggestion, reach out to us.
Yeah, you can email us, openingkillpod@gmail.com.
All right, that wraps up episode 14. I'm Brian O'Connor.
I am Michael Duran.
We will see you next week for Daybreakers. Thanks for listening.
The Opening Kill podcast is hosted by Michael Duran and Brian O'Connor. It's produced by Mystic Cloud Productions. Thanks for listening. And don't forget to subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere you listen to your favorite podcasts. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram too. Join us next Thursday for a brand new episode.